In this video, I'm going to show you how to control a CMMT servo drive in a virtual mode. The intent of this is that I'm not going to have a motor, I'm not going to have an axis, and I don't have access to load power, but I still want to be able to move the axis and control it either through Festo Automation Suite or through a PLC. I'll show you how to do this with a CMMT ST drive, which is the extra low voltage servo drive that also works with our stepper motors, but this will also work for a CMMT AS servo drive. In this video, I'll show you what parameters to change, some of the errors you might get along the way if you're missing parameters, and then I'll show you controlling this both in Automation Suite as well as another PLC. Let's take a look at the bare minimum wiring requirements for this. In my CMMT ST, I have my STO circuit satisfied, which is stealing 24 volts off of pin 1 and jumping it to pins 2 and 3, which are the STO contacts. I don't have a motor connected with an encoder. And I'll show you on my power connection. I have 0 volts plugged into pin 2. Pin 3 has my logic 24 volts. And that first pin there, 48 volts, is my load power, which I do not have any power connection on. Now let's jump into Automation Suite. I already have a pre-configured project set up for this drive. So if I did have my motor, if I had my logic power or my load power, then I'd be able to run the axis completely fine. But now let's make some change to this project so that I can run this in virtual mode. If I had the motor connected, what I could do is go into my motor settings here and select this activation virtual drive. And that would be all that I would need to do. But because I'm missing the motor and the load power, I have to change some other parameters. So I'm first going to go online. Now I'm going to go into the motor tab under axis 1. I don't have access to these parameters through here, so I'm going to change to a list view at the top. Under actual motor information group, I'll scroll down. So this is that activation virtual drive, which will allow the motor to run in a virtual mode. So I have a virtual encoder, but I need the motor and encoder still connected. Now I'll change this setting here and activate this, which allows for the virtual encoder. So I'm not going to get a NDAT or a VISC encoder fault. I'm going to reinitialize, store this on the device. Now if these values are changed, we're going to have to deal with some errors that are going to pop up because now the drive is allowed to work in this virtual mode, but because of not having load supply voltage connected, it's going to have additional errors. You can see that here. My current error is this 00031 under voltage in DC link, which is related to not having load voltage supplied. Under diagnosis, I can see that there's actually another error here too, which is talking about this load voltage. So I'm going to look for errors 31 and 38, and I'm going to change them from this stop category to a warning so that they'll still appear, but it's not going to prevent me from turning the motor on. So under error classification, you can go down to 31, changes to a warning. 38 changes also to a warning. And I'll store this on the device, and I will restart. Now that I'm back online, you can see that this under voltage DC link is now just a warning. It won't go away because it keeps persistently coming back, but now I should be able to move the axis. I'll use PLC control. I'll enable this virtual axis. Now I haven't homed yet, but what we'll look at on this side is this actual position value. So it's a virtual encoder, and it's going to behave like a normal motor, and I should be able to jog it. So I'm going to home it. Now it's homed. There's the actual position value, but I don't have an encoder connected. So now if I jog the axis, you can see that this value here, or this actual position value here change. I'll jog again. You see this move. I can use a target position, move back to here, and use a single step. And now I can use the axis. Now let's move over to an actual PLC to show how the virtual axis is going to work on that side. Now to show this from a PLC perspective, in Codesys here, I'm connected to a CPXE, which is the Festo PLC. I can enable the axis. See that enable's done, and the motor's turned on. And now I'll check my current position. Current position is at 10.7. And if I do this absolute move absolute to, let's say, a position of 100, execute this move. It was in progress, and now it's done. And now my current position is 100. And this is all with a virtual axis. There's no motor connected, no load power, just a CMMT by itself with 24 volts on the logic supply, and I'm able to perform these moves. So to recap, this is great for initial testing on the system. The prerequisite is just having the safety circuit satisfied and having that safety circuit closed. We need to change those parameters to set the virtual mode, and we need to change the error classification for the load voltage so that we're able to turn the motor on.